After my showdown with Filthy and Sam, I had to wait out the rest of the yard and then go back to my cell and lock up. Going back to your cell, putting your stuff away, has a ritual to it. There's a place that everything goes, and everything has to be in the right place. Your boots go under your shelf, right across from the door. You put down a towel or a rag so that you can set them there and they won't dirty the rest of your cell. You take them off right whenever you come in. Your towel, you have to put at the edge of your bed without any folds or creases. It has to be clean and crisp so that it looks nice, and it hangs there so that you can wash your hands and then dry them at the edge of your bed. Your jacket has to hang right at the edge of the door, but at a specific angle so that it doesn't block the guard's line of sight whenever it counts. You can really upset a guard by putting your jacket in just the wrong place so that he can't see you. It makes his job a lot harder, and then he'll make your life a lot harder. Prison is all about compartmentalization. You don't get to have things be overwhelming. You have to just be okay even if you're not. You pretend to be okay. You find a way to be okay because you can't afford to not be. I had to take the towel that I had brought out to wrap around my throat and protect my carotid artery and make sure that it hung just right so that it would look nice and I could dry my hands. I had to be careful to hang the jacket that I had worn because it would just be that extra little layer between my vital organs and Filthy's piece. And I had to put it just right so that it wouldn't block the cop's line of sight. You don't get to panic or freak out. You have to be okay. Sit down and play pinochle with Tony. Just talk, have a normal day. A little while later, a new bus of inmates came from another county. It was Santa Cruz County, where Filthy was from. Whenever you arrive at San Quentin, you have some time to just kind of walk up and down the tier and badger section and introduce yourself. This is whenever you show the shot caller your paperwork. Derek had apparently done some time because after he showed the shot caller his paperwork, he went up and down the tier and introduced himself to every white guy on the tier, including me. He was a younger cat, a skinhead, but he was very polite and respectful, and I immediately liked him. I felt like in a different circumstance, he and I could have been friends. We only talked for a moment, and then he went on to introduce himself to everybody else, but he stood out as more intelligent, more personable, more likable than most of the inmates I met in my term. Prison is all about compartmentalization. You don't get to freak out or panic about what happened that morning. I sat down and I wrote a letter to my counselor saying that I thought that I was going to be out of Badger section that week and I was still there. That was something I could do to try and change my situation. Panicking wouldn't change anything. It wasn't until that night after dinner that I got to panic a little bit and sit there and really consider what had happened that day and how close I'd come to maybe dying, maybe never seeing my loved ones again. I didn't sit up all night crying. This isn't that kind of story. But around that time I started waking up at weird times, midnight, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and my heart would be pumping 200 beats a minute, just thump, 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 thump. And I'd be in a panic and wake up and realize that I was safe and okay and calm down. And it's okay, but my quality of sleep, it went down after that, and I don't think it's ever really gotten better. I still wake up sometimes, just afraid. The next morning, at morning yard, I saw Derek talking with Filthy, and there was a new guy out there also talking with Filthy. I honestly never learned the guy's name. For the purpose of this story, we're going to call him Luke. Luke was a younger cat also, but he was kind of out of shape. You could tell it was definitely his first term. I was keeping an eye on Filthy and Sam that whole yard because I was worried that my tenuous status as driftwood was going to graduate to deadwood. That they were just going to come and get me because they decided that they didn't like me. I was watching Filthy talk to Derek because I was concerned that the new skinhead on the yard that I kind of liked was going to rush over to me, maybe piece in hand, and hurt me or end my life. It didn't look like this was that kind of conversation, though. It was definitely serious, and it did look like Derek was frankly ready to commit violence. He looked resolved. But Luke didn't look like somebody who was getting ready to do something. He looked like somebody who just got told he has cancer. He was upset. He looked like he wanted to cry. He was trying to argue. And Filthy was putting him in his place. It wasn't like Filthy was threatening violence to somebody who'd just been a little bit further away and might have looked like they were just having a normal conversation. But I could pick up the tone. I could see the way Filthy was leaning in. He was intimidating Luke. He was making it clear that whatever the conversation was about, Filthy was in charge and the alternative was violence. I decided to get some distance. I did not need anybody thinking that I was sticking my nose in their business. If it wasn't about me, I just wanted to keep away from everybody else, try and do my time, get off that yard. There had to be a bus coming for me. The only reason that I mentioned this interaction between Filthy, Luke, and Derek is that evening at dinner. Filthy had apparently given them a mission because Luke and Derek walked right to the front of the dinner line. This was unusual. Generally, people didn't move more than maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people in any direction because it was rude to just walk your way to the front of the line, but that's what they did. Once Chow was released, they both took off quickly, and as soon as Derek and Luke had turned the corner, the alarm went off. Right around the corner outside of the door is a spot where there are just the most officers per area on the walk to Chow. There had to be 5, 6, 7 officers within 20 feet of Derek whenever he apparently turned the corner of the door and rushed Luke and punched him in the face 3 or 4 times, knocked him on the ground, and was just setting to mopping him up whenever the cops sprayed him and tackled him. Derek went to the hole. I never saw Luke again. I'd assume he went to the infirmary and then later came back to the yard, but I don't know. There wasn't any information about what had caused Derek to just snap on Luke after all they'd been together in county jail. One would assume they could have handled their business then, but I didn't care. All I cared about was that it wasn't me, frankly. It wasn't until that evening, whenever I was winding down and looking up at the ceiling and kind of recapping the day, that it occurred to me that I bet Filthy had managed to get his kite back to the hole. That all it had costed was a little bit of Luke's blood, new charge for Derek, maybe 90 days, some time, and Filthy borrowing some space in Derek's gangster wallet to send a kite back to the hole. I made a point over the course of my incarceration. At the end of the day, I would ask myself some questions. I would ask myself, what did I learn today? And equally importantly, what do I wish I had known before the day started? What should I have learned yesterday to make today easier? There's one question that I asked myself that night that I remember. It stands out, and I'll probably think about it until the day I die. Would you rather be Derek or Luke? Would you rather be the guy assaulting somebody because he has to, because there's a man with a knife who told him to do it, or would you rather be the person getting assaulted? Would you rather be the victim or the aggressor? They both stepped off the bus that day with a real bad position. I'm sure that Filthy approached them and explained, one of you is going to the hole, he'll get some credit with the gang members back there for bringing an important kite. The other one of you is going to the infirmary. He is getting beat the hell up so that the other guy can get to the hole. That's a lose-lose, and whenever you're confronted with a lose-lose like that, all you really get to choose is what you're going to lose, what's more important to you. It will never be an easy choice to choose between freedom and safety, to choose between being the people that we want to be and doing the things that we want to do, and being safe, not risking things. But it is part of the nature of the choices that we have to make in a daily life, and it is basically the choice that Luke and Derek were confronted with. The next time you're confronted with a gamble, a choice, a situation where you have to choose if you want to play it safe or take a risk. I can't tell you what choice to make, but I can tell you the questions that you need to ask yourself before you commit. What are you going to learn from the choices that you make? And at the end of the day, who do you want to be? Because that's all you really have left at the end of the day, is the choices that you've made and who you are. So think carefully.